All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are opening up the case file on what is, without a doubt, one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in all of astronomy.
And it all kicks off with this weird cryptic message. It was printed out by a computer way back on a summer night in 1977. So what is it? Well, this code, it represents a huge blast of radio energy from deep, deep space. And it was so strange, so unusual, that it's had scientists scratching their heads for, well, almost 50 years.
So, a few days after this thing was recorded, an astronomer named Jerry Amon is looking through the printouts. He sees this incredibly powerful, totally unexpected radio signal, and he can only manage to write one single thing in the margin. You guessed it. Wow. And just like that, with one word, a legend was born. Okay, let's get into our investigation. A signal from deep space, the crime scene. So what exactly did the Big Ear radio telescope pick up, and why did it cause such a massive stir? To really get to the bottom of this mystery, we've got to go back and examine the evidence from the quote-unquote crime scene.
Okay, so here are the vitals. We're talking about a super brief but incredibly powerful blast of radio waves. It was more than 30 times stronger than the normal background static of space. I mean, think of it like a searchlight suddenly flashing on in a pitch-black forest. It lasted for exactly 72 seconds. That's the entire time the telescope was looking at that one little patch of sky in the Sagittarius constellation. And here's the kicker. Despite decades of people looking, we have never heard it again.
Right on to the clues. Why? Wow. So the really crucial question here is what made this signal so darn different from all the other noise we hear from space? It wasn't just that it was loud. It was its character. It had a fingerprint that looked, well, eerily artificial. You know, astronomers who are hunting for alien signals, they often tune their telescopes to this one very special frequency. It's called the hydrogen line. Why? Well, it's a naturally quiet channel in all the cosmic radio noise, so it's kind of like the perfect dialing frequency. The thinking is, hey, hydrogen is the most common element in the entire universe, so any intelligent species out there would know about it. It's like a universal meeting spot, a cosmic water cooler. And guess what? The WOW signal was parked right next to it.
And this, right here, this is the absolute heart of the mystery. See, natural radio signals from things like stars or galaxies, they're messy. They're what we call broadband, kind of like static, spread out all over the dial. But the WOW signal? Oh no. It was clean, it was sharp, it was incredibly narrow. All its power was focused into one tiny little slice of the radio spectrum. Exactly what you'd expect from, a purpose-built transmitter.
All right, let's bring in our first suspect. Could this whole thing just be a really, really weird but perfectly natural cosmic glitch? For a long, long time, that seemed pretty unlikely. But some new evidence has just dragged this theory right back into the spotlight.
And check this out. Just recently, in 2025, scientists decided to go back to the original source, the actual data tapes from the Big Ear telescope. They used modern techniques on parts of the record that had never really been fully analyzed before, and what they found, well, it pretty much changed the whole case.
And boom, here's the first bombshell from that new analysis. The signal? It was way, way more powerful than anyone ever thought. We're talking a peak strength of over 250 Janskys. Now, a Jansky is just a unit for radio signal strength, but to put that in perspective for you, one of the brightest natural radio sources we see in the sky is only about 22 Janskys. So yeah, this thing was an absolute monster.
Yeah, that's right. This new analysis shows the signal was at least 4 times stronger than we originally thought, which just makes its sudden, one-time appearance even more dramatic, and a whole lot harder to just explain away.
So what's the leading natural theory now? It points to something really rare called an astrophysical maser. Just think of it like a natural laser out in space. You've got this giant cloud of gas. It gets supercharged by a massive blast of energy, and for a short time, it shines as this intensely focused radio beam. And what's really exciting is that the reanalysis actually found other, much weaker narrowband signals in that old data. It suggests that, yeah, these things can happen, but the WOW signal, that was the 1 in a million blast that we just happened to catch.
Okay, but what if it wasn't natural? What if we're looking at suspect number 2, an alien power beam? Because the evidence also fits a totally different, and let's be honest, a much more exciting possibility. What if we weren't listening in on a message at all, but we accidentally eavesdropped on alien technology in action?
This is called the power beam hypothesis, and it comes from a physicist named James Benford. His idea is that the signal wasn't a hello, but it was actually the exhaust from an alien engine. I want you to picture this. An incredibly powerful microwave beam is being used to push a starship on something called a light sail, accelerating it up to insane speeds. And in that scenario, little old Earth just happened to drift right through that beam for 72 seconds as it was tracking its target across the sky.
And what's so cool about this theory is that it perfectly explains this single biggest puzzle about the signal. Why did we never hear it again, right? If it was a beacon, just shouting we're here, you'd expect it to repeat. But if it was a power beam pushing a ship on a very specific course, well, from our point of view, that would be a one-time thing. Just a fleeting glimpse of someone else's cosmic commute.
All right, now let's get into a more speculative lead. This one's a bit of a fringe theory, and it treats the signal not as a natural event, not as a power beam, but as an intentional message that's packed with data, hidden in plain sight. So there's this one fascinating, if pretty unconventional, analysis. It points out a really strange pattern. If you take the code 6EQJ5 and you split it right down the middle, you get 6EU and QJ5. Now, stick with me here. They seem to be numerically balanced. Look at that top row. If you add up the signal strength values for that first group, you get 50. If you do the same for the second group, you also get 50. Weird, right? Now look at the bottom row. If you add up their positions in the alphabet, A is 1, B is 2, etc., both groups add up to 32. A perfect match, two different ways. So, what do we make of that? Is it just a mind-bending coincidence, a total fluke of randomness, or could it actually be a deliberate mathematical structure, a subtle sign of intelligence hidden inside the signal? It's a really tantalizing thought, and it definitely pushes the boundaries of this whole investigation.
Okay, so the verdict. The case remains open. After looking at all the evidence, after lining up the suspects, from natural space lasers to alien starships, where does this cosmic cold case actually stand today? I mean, this investigation has been going on for nearly half a century. We've gone through theories about comets, we've had these deep dives back into the original data, and every single time we take a new look, we just add another layer to the story, but we never seem to get to that final page.
So, yeah, this case is far, far from closed. That 2025 reanalysis, it definitely gave the natural explanation a big boost, but it also gave astronomers a much more precise spot in the sky to search for a source. For right now, the WOW signal is still what it's always been, the single most compelling, most tantalizing hint that maybe, just maybe, we're not alone.
And that leaves us with one final, really provocative question. This signal proves that the universe can cook up these extraordinary, fleeting moments that just defy any easy explanation. It forces us to keep listening, to keep combing through all that static. Because if we heard, wow, just once, totally by accident, what else are we missing out there in the silence?